Hello, and welcome to entry-level video editing with Adobe Rush in this AP Empower session. My name is Barb Vinyl, and our facilitator today really is Chris Zirkle. I am a digital learning coordinator with the Northwest area, and Chris is a digital learning coordinator in the Southeastern area. And our contact information is there for you. I'm also going to drop a link to our slides in the chat for you so that you have access to these.
Good morning. How are you doing?
You that have joined us. Hello,
Hello,
Erica.
how are you?
Good morning. How are y'all?
We're doing
Good.
fine, thank you.
Good.
Good morning, Kenya. And we are recording this, and it will be available asynchronously later. So if you prefer to have your face not showing, you can certainly turn off your camera, but we will be working through our slide deck, and this will be available, as I say, asynchronously later. So just as a reminder, if you made it here, you probably already are in the Canvas course, but just as a reminder, this Canvas course session is 50 minutes of face-to-face learning. Some of you are here live learning, while others will be watching asynchronously. But if you're watching live and you later want to view the session, it will be recorded, and you'll be able to find the link in this Canvas course where you started today. Accompanying today's face-to-face session is a slide deck located in the Canvas module for you to view and make a copy. And I've also dropped a link in the chat, and I will do that again now. So those of you that are here live with us, make sure that you have that pulled up because we're going to need it later on. And there's also a short feedback form that we'd like you to complete no matter whether you're live or viewing later, so we can follow up, adjust our material, and really inform our instruction as we go forward.
And they'll have the time for reflection at the end for the CEU credits?
Absolutely. At the end of this, if you wish to gain 0.1 CEU digital learning credits, you will complete the short 10-minute reflection, and it's listed there in the Canvas course. Once completed, it'll be recorded, it'll be added to Wake Learns, and you'll see it on your transcript shortly after the completion of the series. The series ends on March 31st, so you have until then to do your completion. And all of this is built around the North Carolina digital learning competencies for administrators. Okay. Our session goals today are to facilitate and leverage effective partnerships between the school and the greater community, including the local, state, and global communities, to improve the organization and opportunities available to staff and students in support of digital learning. Now, normally we don't read a slide completely, but when we're talking about our session goals, for those of you who may not be able to visually be looking at this slide, we want to make sure you understand what it is we are working towards today. Today, we are focusing on the standard community. We offer learning that's built around these 5 competencies, but today we are focusing on the community standard. That standard states that administrators will engage all stakeholders in the purpose and function of the school, leveraging multiple types and points of connection and communication to ensure the constant, effective flow of information and input. And the link to these standards is found in the speaker notes on this particular slide. So if you wish to go and look at those competencies more clearly, there's also a session that was done in the first module this morning about these competencies that go into them all 5 areas in much greater depth. So why did you choose this session today? What made you come and join us? We're glad to have you here. It's really great to have you here. But in the chat, would you just let us know why you chose to come to this session today?
Yeah, so there may be reasons why you need a video editor. I know one of you talked about creating online content for students, and we know we can screencast with a variety of tools that are approved for Wake County, but screencasting may not allow us to, the tools that we are available to us, put multiple clips together or add in the intro to our presentation, or if we wanted to maybe cut out a portion of what was said or alter it or add other graphics or narration, things like that. That's why we want to get into more of a video editor. Yeah, so one thing that some people in our county aren't aware of is that we have access to the Adobe Creative Cloud. And the Adobe Creative Cloud is rather extensive as far as the applications are available. Adobe Premiere Rush is just one of the applications. There's a quite a long list. If you go to the Adobe Creative Cloud app launcher, once you install that, you'll see everything that's available from video editing as far as Adobe Premiere Rush. On an entry level, you can also install Adobe Premiere Pro, which is, of course, a little bit more advanced. There's audio editing software, photography editing software. We also have graphic arts as far as Illustrator. We also have motion graphics, After Effects. Adobe Acrobat 10 is a very useful one, probably especially for APs as far as editing PDFs, signing PDFs, converting PDFs to other media. So we want you to just be aware, which I'm sure you saw when you installed Adobe Premiere Rush, that you also realized you had access to all these other applications.
And just as a side note there too, that students have access to many of these applications. Not all of them are turned on for students, but students do have access as well. Yeah, and I was wondering too, Chris, if we might look at the different tools on the next slide, because I think it's important to note that there are sort of three levels. We are taking you to Adobe Rush today because this is like the middle level, but just knowing that these are the three different tools for video editing, the Spark, the Rush, and the Premiere Pro, and just so that you're aware of those options. In Rush, maybe we should move to and ask the question, you know, what type of projects are you working on or are you planning? Because that might help us help you a little bit more. So if either, Kenya, what might you be working on or planning?
So for me, I do a lot of group work with small groups. And so just some of the content that I was doing face-to-face, I just want to make it online, online format so they can go back and watch it. But I wanted the videos to be sort of creative. So I don't know if you've seen like the green screen backgrounds. Like, I don't know if I have the ability to do this within any of those programs, but just the editing with the effects. So I wanted to make it a little more than like the Screencastify type thing. And then also looking at doing parent sessions. So I wanted to spruce it up a little bit, adding the music, the intros, all of that to the projects.
Yeah, that's what's great about Adobe Rush and Premiere Pro as far as giving it that polished look, adding lower thirds, adding some music. Adobe Rush has an extensive library of music you're able to use, auto ducking that music to where it reduces the volume when you speak if you want it to play behind you, and just touching up your presentation with a nice graphic on the intro, maybe your school colors or logo, that type of thing, or even Wake County type of branding. If you want to get into green screening, then I still would say you want to learn Adobe Rush, because a lot of the, or some of the tools we'll use will translate into Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro does have a little bit of a different interface, but some of it is pretty similar. And Premiere Pro is where you would do what we call keying, which is when you film yourself in front of a green screen with proper lighting. Then in Premiere Pro, you would key, which means you would remove that green and then you would replace your background with what you want to be shown. And I can show you that. We can work together individually on another time on that aspect of it. But as far as today, we'll definitely go ahead and dive into Rush.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that too, Chris, that Chris is really our video expert on the digital learning coordinator team. And he is always most willing and able to help people on a one-to-one basis, if you wish that, or a small group basis too. So anything beyond today that you might like more help with, I'm pro offering Chris's services because he is the person we turn to. He really has just a wonderful way of providing tutorial information on these great products.
Yes, and if you're watching this asynchronously, feel free to contact your digital learning coordinator. We like to keep your area digital learning coordinator in on the loop, and we can all work together if you want a one-on-one session or small group or staff, anything like that. But let's go ahead and look at, we talked about the kind of projects you're working on. Erica, did you want to say anything about what you're working on?
I am not working on anything in particular. I just want to learn more about the video editing process. We are a brand new school, and just thinking about putting out videos for our community, our parents, and then things that we'll eventually do with students. I just want to have some of that expertise to be able to produce that.
Sure. And I'm a mile away, so I'm always able to just pop over and support you if
Awesome.
need be, or we can always meet online.
Thanks.
And as far as our last question, as far as any prior experience, some people we work with come to experience, they have experience with iMovie or maybe another editor. If you have any experience with a editor, then you're probably going to be able to pick up Rush fairly quickly.
Yeah, and I will say that I come from a Mac background, and so I'm very well versed in iMovie. And when I moved over to start using Rush, it was really a simple transition. And actually, I shouldn't say this in front of my MacBook, which is sitting next to me, but I really like Rush better. I think it does things a little more intuitively than some of the features in iMovie. So if you're familiar with iMovie, you will find this a very easy transition.
So let me show you what we have as far as a little intro into Rush as far as its features and capabilities. One thing I will point out is that you can film on your mobile device, tablet, or phone, upload it to the project in the cloud, and then go over to your laptop and continue working on it. And it transfers the files over for you. I think that's one of the features I like most. Let me just go ahead and play this short video for you. So the first thing I'll show you is the resource we made for you, because some of this may be extensive to where we can't cover all of what we wanted to share with you within a 50-minute session. So we wanted to provide you a resource where you can walk through at your own pace. The home page is the introduction section, which you both have gone through steps 1 and 2, installing Premiere Rush and downloading the project files. So if you're watching this asynchronously, you would go through steps 1 and 2. And then that brings us to 3, which is importing the project files, which we'll go ahead and have a brief discussion, Barbara, Kenya, and Erica, as far as the direction we want to go. Would you rather us remain here in this meeting and let you venture off onto the resource we have for you and watch those and go through your own pace? Or would you like me to walk you through some of the content live? I would like to at least open it up and show you the interface and show you the import step, and then give you some time to do some editing. But what are your thoughts on that, since we do have both of you already have it installed and you have the project files?
I would love for you to, show us and then give us time to practice.
I agree with Kenya.
Okay, so I'm opening up Rush now. I'm going to ask in a moment here if you're seeing a Rush. So are you seeing Rush now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you will do the same here. You're going to open up Adobe Premiere Rush. And what we want to do is we're going to be creating a new project. And once we click on that, it opens up immediately. It's going to look for media to import. And I've gone ahead, as far as in some of our directions as well, we've set up a folder which we entitled Entry Level Video Editing. And I'm going to find that folder here, and that's where all the project files are housed. But on your computer, you could be doing the same thing. Go ahead and find those files where you save them, and you're going to be pulling those in to the project.
And so literally it's just going into your Google Drive and right-clicking on the folder once you've gotten it from the website, and then downloading it to your device.
But here, as you can see, I have the video footage here and I have the audio files. And when I open up the video footage, what I'm going to do is select, and it selects in order. We can disregard the order, but in other words, when I click on this one here, it's saying that's going to be the first clip and this would be the second. But I can go in any order here and just kind of click on these randomly and select them all. We're going to be adjusting the order of them, but we're going to select all the files here that we want to import. And once we do that, we're going to hit create, which means it's actually going to create the sequence. It's going to bring all those video files into the sequence. We're going to remove those because we're going to practice dragging them over and reordering them. And then we would want to go ahead and add the audio files as well. So we would hit the plus button where if I hover over it, you can see it says add media. And when I add media, I'm going to see here that I have those audio files here. And I'm going to just do the same thing and add those audio files to the project.
So
and it brings everything in. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Barbara.
I was just going to interrupt. I'm sorry. I was just going to mention too, again, not knowing how much experience either any of you have had on utilizing this kind of a platform, but you can bring in all sorts of different types of media. So, you know, still pictures and actual movie footage or video footage, audio, and combine them in ways that you need them combined. So it's not just video, audio. You can actually bring in still pictures as well.
Yeah, so it's great for making slideshows. It actually has a effect that actually zooms and pans on images, which is really nice to do. So the next thing we're going to do here is actually highlight everything and remove it from the timeline, because we want to practice bringing these into the sequence or timeline on our own. So this is our starting point, where if I look at my folder here, my project file box, I can see all the media is actually in the project. It's just a matter of me dragging it down over here in the order that I want it to be in.
So can we pause here for just a moment? And does anybody have any questions up to this point?
I am in the interface. I'm assuming that like iMovie, you're able to kind of shorten the sound or edit those clips of sound to be the length that you want them to be, so that if you wanted multiple songs to cover the same image, you could do that.
Yeah, the only downfall, and I have an actual in the editing 101 a video on that, exactly what you're talking about, making the audio match the duration of the video. And the one feature that Adobe Premiere Rush doesn't have at the current moment is an audio fade out. In other words, if I want to end an audio clip earlier, it's not going to fade the end of that clip out. It's going to end abruptly. Now, putting two audio clips together and using a dissolve can smooth it out a little bit, but it's not as precise as a true fade, where you can drag and extend the duration of the fade if you wanted to. And I can visually show you that. So one of the two things has to happen. You have to pick a song with a different duration, or extend your media, your video or photos, to match the length of the audio, or have that more of an abrupt transition from one song to another. It may not even be noticeable, but to me, I like it to be totally smooth with that dissolve, it smooths it out a little bit, but not exactly the way I would prefer it to be. So for
Another
example,
too is to use Audacity, which is it's available in your Big Fix on your computer. It's a free download, and Audacity will allow you to make some of those edits and do the fade out if you really, if you're really particular about how you want it to be. I also want to remind you that there is copyright with audio, and to be sure that you're not using more than 30 seconds of any copyrighted piece of music. There are some great websites that have free audio that you can use. YouTube has a whole selection of free to use audio that major artists have created just for use in presentations. So just be aware of that audio feature as well.
yeah, and just to end on this point, and then we'll get into a tour of the interface. The dissolve feature works as the fade out. So I've just increased the dissolve here. And so if I come to the end of this song here, you're going to hear it kind of fade
We
into
aren't
the
able to
other.
hear the sound though.
Okay. But it will fade into the other. You just grab an effect, add a dissolve to it, and increase the duration. And you can end a song early and transition to another one, and it'll smooth it out. But that's one of the things that is different between Premiere Pro and Adobe Rush is that's more of an advanced feature. But you can see it's doing it here, so that can be done. So let's take a look at the interface here. When we look up here at File, we notice that it doesn't say Save; it auto saves. And we can of course do some other creating a new project from here. As far as editing, you can do some undoing. We'll talk about preferences here for a brief moment. If you're going to be doing any kind of audio narration, you want to make sure that microphone is selected. So if you have some images or footage you want to narrate over, you would want to make sure your mic is selected to do that. And then as far as the clips, we can apply some effects and translations here that we can also do other places. These are more shortcuts. And of course, our sequences, as far as looking at the aspect ratio or zooming in and out, there's some shortcuts here for that. And as far as viewing various effects and tools that are available, there's shortcuts for those. That's what most of this up here are shortcuts. And of course, home will take you out of the project back to your main Adobe Rush dashboard where you'll see all your projects. Here's where we add media. Here's where we see all the media that's in it. So if you want to increase and maximize your screen size here, which on a smaller laptop you'd want to, you may want to have this closed when you don't need to see that, and you may want to have your effects turned off when you don't need to see that, so you can maximize your screen. Here's where our media is. And then, of course, once we actually have media on our timeline, then when we actually touch that media, we have some other options that are available here. Our scissors will let us splice it or split it. So if you need to splice it somewhere, you can. That's where I do a lot of my editing. When I speak, I do sometimes misspeak, or I'll pause for a long duration, or possibly excuse me, cough, or maybe something else interrupts it and I want to cut that out. That's when I really benefit from the splicing tool. And of course, duplicating is just going to make another copy of something that you have selected, and then you have your trash can. And as far as expanding the audio, here we can see different views of our timeline. So the audio that's incorporated with this video clip, I can expand it to see it in a larger view or hide that. And I can also go to this view, which is you're looking more at, this is what Premiere Pro looks like, where you have multiple video sequences and multiple audio sequences or timelines where you can drop content onto that. So if you want to add a clip on top of another clip, or a title or text or animation, that kind of thing, or multiple audio files. So if you want a song underneath video, that's when you would get into using this view here. You can expand that or turn that off. So that's more more or less a personal preference. And lastly, on this side, and then we'll pause for some questions and let you catch up here a little bit, is just our sorting. So I can sort by name or date. And my favorite filter is going to looking at just my videos or just looking at just my audio, going back and forth between those two when I want to add something, which would be our pretty much our next step is to go ahead and add some content here to the timeline so you can touch it and select it and splice, duplicate, or trash so you can see some of those. Or if you want to expand the audio even further, you can do that. Um, Before we go on to the rest of the tour of the interface, we want to pause here for a moment to see if there's any questions or comments. So if we lock something here, that just means that nothing can be done to it. So if you've done some effects or you've done some editing and you want to like secure it, you can lock it. You can also turn off or mute the audio here. You can even hide the visual component of a timeline or sequence. And pretty much the same thing down here. Here is the record button. So for example, if I had a separate sequence here, I could record my voice here over the music and under the video. I would just hit the record button and go from there. And I would put this right here, this media head, where I want that recording to start, and then hit record and go from there. So if you want to do some narration. In the middle, we have our project file up at the top, our player head, which this will takes you to one more frame, and this takes you to the next edit point. You can maximize your screen. This is great for when you want to preview what you've done so far and then minimize it. And of course, here you can loop something and you can change the aspect ratio, which you may or may not want to do. What that basically means is if you're preparing something for Instagram or for another media that has a different aspect ratio, you can change your screen size here and edit from there. But most of what we probably going to publish is going to be 16:9, which is the default. And of course, we have our timestamps on our timeline here. We can drag this up and down. So if you're looking for a landscape on your computer, um, you can adjust this to help you see that more visually. And then lastly, on the right are all our effects. So the first one are our text effects. When we click on that, when you click on add graphic, over here, you can see all the titles. And to see them all, just hit more. And you can scroll through the library of titles. Anything you want to use, you can customize as far as the color, the font, the size. So if I wanted to bring something over, I just drag it over. And once it's over, when I can touch on it, then I can edit those components over here as far as the color and the font and the size and all those other aspects. So the shape is this color here. I can edit that out. And of course, you can also move that around and adjust it to be where you want it to be on your computer there, on your timeline. You can also stretch it and shrink it by just dragging on it here and popping that where you want it to be. And to hide an element or an effect, you just click on it again. So to hide the graphics, you just click on it and it hides it. And there's other types of graphics you can get into. Um, so they have transition graphics and they have some overlays. I've played around with these, and that's something you want to just kind of explore on your own to see if that's something you may use. And we'll do one more and we'll pause again. These are the effects. So you have different transitions which occur in between two clips. So if I have two clips here, I would add a transition in between the two clips by dragging it over. And now that's going to fade out from one to black to the other. And we also showed you earlier how to dissolve the audio as well and increase the duration of that transition. Panning and zooming, you see, is grayed out because that only applies to photographs or images. So if you do have those, you can apply that effect, auto reframing as well. So before we go on to our coloring, any questions or comments on what we just discussed? Coloring, for example, this scene here that's got like a lot of nice orange and red in it. I can choose a built-in preset, or I can go to edit and I can change that myself. I can really kind of try to contrast this or warm this up even more or cool it down a little bit. So you can get into some custom color grading if that's something you want to look at. Um, I like to add a vignette sometimes to my content, just kind of adds a little bit of darkness to the corners, which makes the eye focus more on the subject. You can feather that out. So this is something you have to play around with. But if you want to add any coloring, either editing your own or going to presets and using some pre-built-ins, you can do that there. We click on that to hide it. In our speed duration, we can increase the speed of a clip or slow it down depending on which way you slide this. So if I want to slow it down, I just drag it to the left. If I want to speed it up, I drag it to the right. And then we have our audio, which this is where that extensive audio library is. If you're looking for audio clips, just click on Browse. Soundtracks may or may not have vocals. Sound effects, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then loops are going to be shorter. So maybe just for like an intro or outro. They're usually between 20 and 30 seconds. You can always click on more to search those. And if you wanted to search sound effects, you can always search for a sound effect up here. See if you find something you like. Anything that you like, you click on it once and hit add, and it'll add the media to your timeline, and you can drag it wherever you want it to go. And you can adjust the volume. The last thing I'll say about audio is that when you bring audio clips in, right here, if you see this says auto volume, it's made all the audio kind of the same level. And what I find, sometimes I don't like that effect. It kind of mutes it a little bit. So I play around with listening to that the way it is auto volumes, or I uncheck that and then I adjust the volume here myself. And the last thing is cropping a clip. If you do want to crop a clip or an image, you can do so by using these controls here. I see our time is running short, and that's the reason why we made this a web resource for you. So that way you could go through, let me see where I put that. Too many tabs open. The website that we shared earlier with you will have all the steps. It'll go into more detail to walk you through editing a project and demonstrate that in a very, very step-by-step type of manner. If you have any kind of editing experience, again, you may just pick this up and not need to watch any of my editing 101 videos, but they are there, and they're also kind of chunked out so you can look and see. You maybe don't need to preview all of them. Maybe there's just certain ones you need to preview. You can go through those and follow along with the project files.
And Chris has done a really nice job of breaking it down into steps on his website, the Editing 101 website. I just dropped the link again into the chat, but it is linked in our slides as well. But again, Chris, thank you so much for going through each of those steps. Every time I watch a tutorial of yours or have the ability to hear you live, I always learn something new about a product that I've worked with or a tool that I've worked with. So we do encourage you to utilize that website, and also, again, to reach out to your DLCs who can connect you with Chris, or even to reach out to Chris directly, who will then connect you back to your DLCs. We are always here to help you. Don't forget to do the feedback. We do appreciate your feedback, and I will drop that link once again into the chat. Anybody have any questions?
No, thank you so much. This was really good.
Yes, thank you both.
Thank you both for being with us. Thank you those who are had joined us asynchronously, and don't forget to make sure you do the little feedback portion if you wish to earn 0.1 digital learning credit through the Canvas course.